Gabriela, hey, congratulations on your short film, Bertie the Brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as well.
Hey, more of a congratulations being showcased this week and other places at the Hollyshorts Film Festival. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah, I'm just it's I wish I could be there. But I know that my team's gonna be there. And yeah, it's just I love, when you're making the work. For me, the whole process of filmmaking is not just once the film is completed and seen by everyone, but it's also the process of making the work. So when I'm making the work, I just sort of trust that it's going to be good and that people are going to respond to it. And I just sort of go with it. And I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing and it's going to be great. But like seeing it out in the world and being in a room where people are responding to it and getting that thing that you get when you feel the energy and you hear the laughter where it's supposed to be happening, and you get like everything you did, it all landed or it all meant something, is a beautiful feeling. So I'm very excited to have it be seen and not online, but like in a theater. So
That is terrific to hear, but we have to ask is where the original idea came from. What little nugget sparked this?
So I had family visiting me. My aunt, my grandmother, and my cousin were all Cuban. And my aunt was telling me a story about when my cousin was 8 years old. And now we're all like in our 30s. I'm 40 now, but my cousin is in her 30s. And so this was a very long, like a long time ago story. And basically my grandma, my aunt, and my cousin lived in Cuba, and it was during the special period in the 90s where the food was really hard to come by. It was, people really struggled. And there was like this little hot dog stand that had opened up near my aunt's house. And my cousin really wanted this hot dog because it was like this like really special thing. And so, but it cost like $1.50 and she didn't have any money. So my aunt every day would be like, okay, well, if you do this, I'll give you a little quarter. And if you do your homework, I'll give you this. And so my cousin started like doing all these things around the house and like helping out to raise money for this hot dog. And when she finally raised the money that she needed, she overheard my grandparents in another room talking about how it'd been so long since they had tasted milk. Because during the special period, so right before the special period in Cuba, milk was given rationed to old people and children under 7. But now, because of the special period, milk was only for children under 7. So old people no longer got milk. And so she overheard this conversation. And when she went out to get her hot dog, instead, she asked her mom to take her to the black market to buy some milk for my grandparents. And when she came home, and they were like, oh my God, like, why did you do that? She's like, I couldn't enjoy this hot dog by myself and not give my grandparents this thing that they'd all been yearning that they could share together. And it was like a really emotional time for my family. Like they all just saw this heart of this little girl. And anyway, that happened like so long ago, but like a few years ago, my aunt is retelling this story and she's getting emotional telling it again. And I realized in that moment, like, this is a nugget of gold. This story is universal and it's timeless. And I took that, and that's what the origin story for Bertie.
I know it's always funny, right? These stories about the hustle culture always cross several generations.
Yep, exactly right.
So how did it came about that you transform a hot dog story into a magician story?
So, like you get movies and ideas, they all sort of just come together and you pull. As a kid, I was always fascinated by magicians. I went to a birthday party at like a zoo in Cuba, and I saw my first magician. I think I was like 6 or 7, and I just thought it was so cool. And I'm also really interested in general in like cons and hustles and scams. And I think there is sort of a correlation between magicians and like conning people, frauding people into believing things. So magic and magicians have always been something that's really interesting to me. But also, like, is there real magic in the world? And the exploration of children who lose that belief in that, my daughter believes in, Santa Claus and unicorns and all these things. And like one day she won't. But when does that moment happen where that switch turns? You know, like I've always been fascinated by when do you go from like the magician to like the magician, right? So that I've always just like loved magicians, so I wanted to bring in that element of it. And then the other element that I brought in was Bertie's love for performance. Like he wants to be just like Maya. And that was inspired by when I was a kid. I used to always, every time I would go to like a buffet with my family or somewhere, and there would be like a performer, I'd always ask if I could go on stage and like do a poem or something. And so all these things together came into what is Bertie the Brilliant. And then stylistically and tonally, I was inspired by a song by Rafaela Carrà, who is this like 60s and 70s like Italian pop artist. And I just kept hearing that song in my head, and that was tonally and stylistically how I built the world. Mm-hmm. And then I couldn't get the rights to that song because it was so expensive, so I was just like, I'm going to write my own music. And so I wrote music in the style of that vibe. So that's really how it all just came to be.
Wow, that is terrific. Do you know magic tricks yourself, or you just have to wing it like any of us?
Yeah, no magic tricks. Just survival skills.
just movie tricks, of course.
There you go.
Now, of course, you know, I found this short film fascinating is because it could have just been a regular short film, but you made it unique by having you know, Maya the magician as a gender fluid character. Tell us about the decision making this the character gender fluid, because you know this is much more of an updated you know, for society today.
Yeah. So it's funny, the way that Bertie is now was a happy accident. Originally, I wanted Maya the Magnificent to be a drag queen, like an actual drag queen. But I couldn't get the drag queens that I wanted. So they were like shooting RuPaul's like All Stars or whatever. So, and I really wanted a drag queen who could do magic, who was a woman of color or a drag queen of color. And so it was really hard to find. And so then I was like, all right, then I'm going to have a female magician of color, and then have Bertie want to be like her and want to be in drag to look like this female magician. So that was the original story. And then when I started auditioning young actors for Bertie, nobody was comfortable wanting to dress in, I'm going to put on quotes, feminine makeup. So it's just really unfortunate, because I would tell my producers, like, the reason we need to tell this story this way is because we need little boys to be comfortable doing whatever they want. Mm-hmm. But it was so hard. And, you know, even speaking with the parents, like, I promise you, this is so important. Like, and a lot of parents are like, look, I get it. I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, my kid's still going to have to go to school and deal with other kids making fun of him because of this. And of course, like, I'm like, well, just do it anyway. Let's change the world. But I have to like listen to these parents because I need a young man to play Bertie. So it was just really difficult. And I kept just sort of racking my brain of like, how am I going to be able to do this? And then my female magician, who I had cast, was not COVID vaccinated. And it was right around COVID, and we needed a fully vaccinated cast and crew because we were a small production and we couldn't afford to have like people on set doing tests all the time. So we needed to like all be fully vaccinated. So I had to recast her. And then I was looking at tapes, and I got this tape from actually someone I know from grad school who is gender fluid. She identifies as she, but she also identifies as he, just however they're feeling. But I know her as she. And they submitted this beautiful tape of a very like purple Prince type masculine sort of cool like take on this magician that I hadn't even thought of. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I have my answer. This is it. I can have this element of gender and identity. I can have these, whoever I cast, put on makeup and be comfortable in that it's quote unquote more masculine because it's a beard and not lipstick or whatever, right? And then I can still have this identity element and have this exploration, but meet every sort of comfort level. And so that was how it worked out. I tried to get these young men to to love makeup. I would send them pictures of like Harry Styles and Lil Nas X, and I'd be like, look, these dudes are so cool. But it was just, but you know, it was how it was supposed to be. And I think it's a lovely movie and it's a sweet story. And there's an element of identity that's definitely there. But I just didn't want to harp on it. I just wanted it to be part of the story. Because a lot of times I think when you're a minority, you're expected, like as a Latina, for example, I'm expected to talk about, ooh, this is how Latina I am, or ooh, look at the woman that I am, right? And yeah, we are those things, but we're so many other things too. And so I wanted that to just be an element of the story that just flowed through, but that grandma never like talked about like, oh, it's okay that you like this, you know, like let's just let it exist like everyone else exists. So that's really sort of how it came to what it is.
Yeah, you know, I mean, after all, the short film theme is about you know, sacrifice and family and stuff, and that's and this wasn't quite it. But the tell us about the choreography and the color scheme that you use for Maya and the Magician. I do have to admit, it is vibrant, it is fun, and it's something that was that children would actually love.
Good, I hope so. I wanted it to be a co-watching film for the whole family. I wanted children to like look up to this little boy, and I wanted grown-ups to just feel good and proud of like how they're being represented on screen. I wanted it to just be a joyful, positive, uplifting film that feels like a little candy in your mouth, like a little Werther's original. And so the color scheme, you know, I went on a lot of Pinterest. I did a lot of research. I wanted it to have a very like 70s vibe. So there were some films that I referenced, like for the Magician's World, I wanted purples and blues and shiny stuff. And I referenced a movie called Julie and Celine Go Boating it's like a Jacques Rivette movie from 1974. But, you know, I just pulled a bunch of images. And so every world, like the hotel, I wanted it to be more of a pastel-y pinks, peaches, and like an 80s sort of color palette. And then I wanted the trailer park to be very warm and browns and oranges and yellow, and it just makes you feel good. So I really did use a lot of color to guide my viewer, hopefully, through this visual experience of this world. But yeah, just a lot of research and a lot of like bringing colors together. And I put a color palette together, which I sent to my entire team. And I was like, all right, costumes, here's the palette, production design, here's the palette, like, let's build this. And they delivered, they really delivered. I could not be happier with my team.
Just love it when all the components come together like this. This is terrific. Now, you mentioned that you auditioned a lot of kids for the role of Bertie. Tell us how you settled Bertie once and for all for your film.
I love how you pronounce the word Bertie. I think it's beautiful. So I auditioned a lot of kids, and you know, there was a lot of non-diverse kids that I really, really wanted like a Latino youth. And I had a lot of non-Latino actors submit. It's really hard actually to find like a 9 to 12-year-old Latino young man who would want to be part of this film. So I did get some really good auditions, but they were like an Indian kid submitted, and he was really good. And I was like, oh, should I just make the character Indian? But I was like, no, this is a Latino character. So then I found a Bertie, and again, I cast a Bertie, and I worked with this Bertie who'd never acted before. And then his mom wasn't vaccinated, and she didn't have anyone to bring him to set. So the day before, like 2 days before production, I recast Prince. And Prince hadn't submitted during the first round of auditions. So I was seeing Prince for the first time, and I used the support of one of my favorite casting directors, Alan Luna. He helped me find this little boy, Prince. And when I saw him, I'm like, oh my God, this is when I think of Bertie, this is exactly what he looks like. But Prince had also never acted, never sing and dance. Like he'd been in one music video. And so 2 days before production, and we couldn't push production because I had like my husband is also part of production, and we'd like sent our kids with my family so we could shoot this movie. So we're like, we gotta do this. So 2 days before production, we worked with Prince and his family. When I auditioned kids, I also auditioned the parents. I couldn't have gotten better parents. Like they were like so all about like, we want Prince to do really well. We'll go to every rehearsal. So it was really, they really made it very easy for me to work with Prince and to get, you know, the performance that I was able to get from Prince. So that's really how I ended up with our Bertie 2 days before production.
Well, I had no idea that this was his first production ever, because I couldn't tell. I mean, how do you direct a kid like that?
I mean, we shot a lot of rehearsals. I had a lot of, so we would shoot on rehearsals because sometimes, like, you know, when you've never acted before and the camera's on and the pressure's on, it can be hard, you know? And so I would be like, all right, we're going to do a rehearsal, and then we just shoot it. And so we got a lot of really good, like, because he was relaxed and he was just, you know, being himself, and we got a lot of gold. We also did some improvisation, which wasn't originally my plan, but when I would let a scene continue after the dialogue was done, he would really drop in and just talk like the character, and it was really great. And so some of that stuff I did keep in the script and in the movie. And then I also did a lot of rehearsals, like before we shot. We worked with a magician that also volunteered his time. He was amazing. We worked with a choreographer. We worked with, I just wanted to prep him in the 2 days, 2 to 3 days before we started shooting. I wanted to spend as much time with him as possible so that when he went into the first day, he was as confident as possible. And so that's really sort of how I worked with him. But just, you can't lose your cool. You have to be very encouraging, and you have to make everything seem like it's super fun.
That is very sweet. So
no, I mean, that was so good. Well done. Now let's do it again. But like, let's try it this way. So you just have to like, just keep it bright and keep it positive. And even if on the inside, you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I have it. Oh my God, I'm running out of time. On the outside, you got to be like, this is amazing, but now let's try this way. So, yeah.
I do have to admit, I love your energy, because it not only shows through your direction, it shows into your short film as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what's up next for you after all this?
Well, now, you know, with the strikes and everything, it's not been easy, but I have been working on my own stuff. I have a script called Little Con Lily, which is based on, well, I have a proof of concept, which was a short that I made. It did really well. That's how I got representation. Ended up working with Netflix on the feature. It went into turnaround last year. And since then, I've been sort of rewriting it for myself. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to make this film that I want it to be. And then I'm going to go out and try to get independent financiers to want to be a part of this. So I am working with Mandalay Pictures and like a few other production companies. But right now, obviously, because of the strike, I'm sort of just working on the writing on my own. So that's, you know, something in the works. I did just get a fellowship that I'm technically not allowed to announce yet, but that's going to be exciting. It's a new project that I'm going to be starting next year. And then I'm hoping to work with Latino Public Broadcasting again. Latino Public Broadcasting, if you don't know, is an incredible organization that supports Latino content in the public broadcasting space. They do a lot of documentaries, but they also do a lot of narratives, and they support filmmakers like myself. So to make Bertie, I didn't have enough money and I needed more support. And so I applied for a grant through Latino Public Broadcasting, which I ended up getting. But what was great about that is that not only did I get a grant from them, I got this like entire part of support. As producers, they helped me cut the movie down from 35 minutes to 25 minutes. They really have been instrumental in the telling of Bertie the Brilliant as you've seen it. And so I'm really excited to work with them again. So I just submitted a couple of projects for their next cycle of funding. That's also potentially on the horizon. And I'm working with two new script ideas at the same time. So just a lot of generating content for myself in the meantime, while all of this craziness is happening around us in our industry.
Most excellent. And just to wrap things up, where else can we hopefully see your wonderful short film in the future?
All right, so you can watch it on a big screen at Hollyshorts on June 17th at 2:30 p.m. It's part of the Latinx block, or you can watch it on PBS. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram, on social media. My website is my full name, GabrielaGarciaMedina.com, no double L's. And also my company, I have a production company that I started through which I've made all my short films, and it's called Mira Mira Pictures, which means look, because as a Cuban, this is a thing that we do all the time, where if there's something really cool, you're like, "Ay, mira, 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 mira." And so I always would say that to my husband, and my husband's like, "That's a really good name for your production company, like Mira Mira," because when you see something really cool, you're like, "Mira Mira." So our films are so cool that you're gonna want to Mira Mira. So yeah.
Most excellent. Well, hey, congratulations once again for your short film, and thank you very much for carrying this conversation with us.
Thank you for making time for me. You could have interviewed anyone, and you interviewed me for Bertie, so I appreciate it.
Hey, you know what? It's a terrific film, and we need to push that out. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.